And Australian superstar, Tamika Upton. Tamika, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Where did it all start in rugby league for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in Blackwater, which is in central Queensland, and played with the boys, obviously, until the cut-off age. And then we moved into Rockhampton. So between then, I played a lot of touch footy and netball, and yeah, I played that pretty much throughout high school, and got a call from a friend just saying, can you come and fill in the women's open team in Yeppoon? And yeah, I rocked up and absolutely loved that game.
Who was your friend? Who was the friend that called you?
Her name's Lydia, so she's moved out of Yeppoon now, but
Thanks,
yeah,
Lydia.
yeah.
So who was the coach?
Yeah, so Margie Grant was the coach. So
Harry Grant.
Harry's mum, and she's an absolute legend. So I really enjoyed that season and signed up the next year and played the full season through before being picked up by the Broncos.
Did you know Harry growing up?
Yeah, I knew of him. So he was obviously in Yeppoon and obviously knew how good he was at footy, and he sort of went, yeah, leaps and bounds straight after high school, so it was good to watch.
Because Ben Hunt grew up in and around Blackwater, played his junior rugby league there. What was it like for you growing up in that area as a female rugby league player? Did you play with the boys in the early days?
Yeah, so I played with the boys. A lot of them were my friends growing up. And it was really funny. I still remember there was still parents on the sideline like, pull her hair, go, all this sort of stuff. But no, I absolutely love playing with the boys, and I'm really thankful for it now. I think, obviously, you have to learn to adapt, and yeah, had a lot of fun.
Does that still happen now? One of your players got penalised for pulling hairs.
Yeah.
Do you still hear that in the game? Pull a hair.
Yeah, not so much now. I think you get a penalty and stuff for it now. There was nothing back then. But yeah, you don't go to do it. It does happen a lot in our game, but you definitely don't intentionally go to do it.
1-2 comps in Newcastle. What's that like, winning a competition up there in rugby league crazed Newcastle?
Yeah, so I actually couldn't believe it. So I previously won at the Broncos, and then the first time winning at Newcastle, we had no idea, but they brought us back on the bus, and then next minute there was all these people. They took us to this public, I think it was at the Nex, and the public were invited in, and it was actually surreal, to be honest. And we got off the bus, there was so many people there cheering us on, and I never felt anything like it.
You didn't ride a skateboard down the main street?
No.
Like that?
Eyes rolling
No.
in your head.
No.
Better than Lego?
What about players looking up? Who's your favourite players? Who are the influences growing up and embarrassing?
Yeah, so I obviously loved watching Billy growing up. Billy and Greg Inglis were my favourite players. Obviously, being a Queenslander, that helps. And I actually loved South Sydney. So when GI went to South Sydney, that was like a dream. But obviously loved football a lot and watched heaps of the games with my family. We just loved to sit and watch it.
Always played fullback?
No, actually. I think because I played a bit of touch footy, they just threw me in the halves and sort of expected me to know what to do. But I actually started on the wing with the Broncos. There was a fair few injuries, so they just sort of slotted me in for the first game. And come grand final, which was only, I think there was only 3 rounds and then a grand final, the coach sort of said to me, like, I want you to play fullback. Do you think you can play that? And I was like, yeah, sure. Obviously, I don't want to say no, but sure.
Just recently, we saw a record crowd up at your home ground. What was that experience like?
Oh, that was absolutely incredible. I think I sort of had a moment. We arrived at about 5:30 and kickoff wasn't until 7:50, and there was people actually in the stadium already, and it was pouring rain and freezing. And I just sort of looked out there and just thought, this is going to be incredible. And it really was. Throughout the warm-up, there was people heckling, and I got a few cheers, which was nice from the Newcastle crowd, but yeah, it was absolutely amazing.
How does it make you feel growing up? Obviously, you said your heroes were GI and Billy. Now, your pictures are on little girls' walls. My daughter's 5 and she runs around the house saying, I'm Mix, look at Mix. How does that make you feel that the little girls are looking at you as their heroes?
Yeah, it's obviously really surreal, and I think we don't really realise that at times, and at Newcastle particularly, like, even the public getting around us, like, we're not used to that. So, like, we'll go out for breakfast and so many people just come up and just say, we can't wait to watch you. And
so
it's an incredible feeling.
How do you deal with that pressure side of it? Because you're one of the stars of the game, and you know things. The good stuff happens around you. The pressure of going out there and outlaying that every time. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I don't sort of think of it as pressure. I sort of think I do my prep early in the week, so I'm having fun come game day. And I got really good advice actually from Blake Green recently, and it was sort of like when you go out there for the grand final, you know, touch the ground, look around, smile, so you actually get present straight away. Because I think sometimes when you get out there in big moments, the first 20 minutes can just fly and you realise you haven't done anything or haven't got into the game. So I don't see it as pressure so much now, but I like to think it is a team sport, and I've only got a couple of things to do my role for the team, and if I can do those things, like, the team will be on a good track.
What about the pressure of being hurt? There'd be a lot of girls out there intimidated by the game itself, and you're not a big girl, and there's some strong girls out there. What's that pressure like? Do you ever go out there fearing that you're going to get hurt?
Not so much hurt, but I do realise I'm probably going to get whacked, particularly in Origin. Obviously look up and there's Grace Kemp, CJ, Millie, all these big girls, and I'm like, there's not really many places for me to run here. So I think you're ready for it, and I like to think, I back my forward pack, can just tire them out a little bit so I can take a few runs.
Well, there's obviously a lot of mums watching and have little boys and little girls wanting to play rugby league. What's the message you would give those mums and also dads?
Yeah, get him into it early. So I think I'm really grateful that I actually had that experience playing with the boys. And obviously we had a massive break, so I had about 9 years off rugby league, but there is pathways all the way through now, which is so exciting, and the game's growing. I think the game for rugby league has so much potential for the women's game to be a top tier sport, so get them into it.
Have you noticed a difference? Obviously you missed those years as a teenager. Have you noticed the girls that have come through and played during those years, how better equipped they are to be playing?
Oh, 100%. You look at the S&C side of it. I look at someone like Jessie Southwell, and she's throwing the massive weights around in the gym, and her body is built for it. And so we missed a few of those years, but I think I look at her as a perfect example of someone who's come through all the ranks, and she'll be there for a very long time.
Origin in Townsville. First year, it's 3 games. Looking forward to that one. Freddie's talking about pressure, going home to Townsville or going home to Queensland to win the series. Do you feel the pressure?
Yeah, I think so. I think so now that it's a 3-game series, and we definitely didn't perform game 1, and I think it's like, it got to do or die obviously in game 2, and we got away with that with a field goal. So I think there is a bit of pressure on us to go back to Townsville, get the decider, but it's good when you don't feel that pressure when you're in camp. So right now, we're not in camp, we're not really together. So once we get in camp, there's no chat of that. We just enjoy time around each other and build on our skills.
Watching the first 2 games as a Queenslander, you girls play with a whole heap of courage and spirit. But what footy-wise do you need to get right? Because New South Wales have got the jump on you twice now and led the game.
Yeah, so I think we've obviously played a lot of football at the start of the year, and that was all the chat, like, oh, we're going to be fitter than them, they haven't played. But they actually trained together, like twice a week, and stayed as a squad together, and we actually played against each other. So we need to gel. We need to get in the grind of the game and figure out how we're going to do it together. And I think there's patches where we don't do that. So the kick's a bit off, our kick chase is a bit off, they're making line breaks left, right and centre. So, yeah, I think we just need to gel as a unit.
They made a change, Queenslanders, and moved Ali Brigginshaw from lock forward to halfback. Now, she's been the standout, for the last decade. What's it going to be like, firstly, when she moves on? Well, she has been such a presence for a long time. What's it going to be like when she moves on? And have you got someone there to take her spot?
To be honest, I haven't actually thought of that. I think she's just been around forever. You never really think she's going to go anywhere. But I love the fact she's so controlled out there, and she actually gives other players a lot of confidence. So I actually started at the Broncos with Ali, and she's always like, play your game, what do I need to do for you? So I think that's the best part about her, is how much confidence she can give other players. But yeah, obviously Zahara Temera's there as a backup, and I think she's incredible as well. She's another one that's really cool, calm, collected, and just gets to her points.
She's a semi-professional at the moment, the NRLW. What would it mean to you to go fully professional?
Yeah, it would be incredible, to be honest. I think the balance is good, so I sort of look at it in a positive way, that we're not footy 24/7, so when things aren't probably going right, I have a job, I get to go into schools, I get to go and
you work
meet
for
new
the
people.
Knights, yeah.
Yeah, so I get to go out in community, and I think that's a really nice balance. I sometimes feel for the boys when things aren't going to plan and everything's sort of hammered and it's just footy. So I think we have a nice balance at the moment, but the speed of the game, how much you have to prep your body, particularly in the off-season, I would like to see it go full-time pretty quickly.
You had any major injuries?
Yeah, I've had a pars fracture on my back, and I did that in 2020, so I didn't really realise. I was just like, oh, my back's hurting, can't really feel my legs sometimes when I'm running. It was a bit interesting, but I think I look back at that and it taught me so much about preparation. Like I wasn't preparing right, wasn't warming up correctly, so many things like that. And I think now I do my best work when we're not playing footy.
Do you sit back and look at where you are right now, that little girl growing up in Blackwater? You've won 4 premierships, you've played for your country, you're playing for your state. Do you sit back and pinch yourself and realise, wow, this is all happening?
Yeah, I do actually. And sort of when we were growing up, you didn't see that. So I always wanted to play sport when I was growing up, but you never had that opportunity to be like, I want to be a rugby league player. But I always think about that growing up, and I'm just so glad there's pathways now for the young girls.
Yeah.
What about rugby sevens, the carrot of playing the Olympics? Has that ever been a dream?
Not necessarily. So I've actually had a few chats to them, like back and forth, but I love rugby league too much. I actually love the game. I love watching it, being around it. And yeah, obviously Olympics is a huge carrot, and I think for them, they're full time. And that, as an athlete, was very tempting just to actually go and train. But no, I love rugby league too much.
Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming down the freeway. We're about to head up the freeway to God's country.
Yes.
But for Knights fans, have a look at this. I'm going to get you warmed up for today with our spiritual leader, Paul Harrigan.
I want to wake up in a city that's blue and red. To find I'm head of the pack. We're kings of the league. If I could make it here, I'd make it anywhere. I love my Newcastle. 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 Newcastle.